Hello everyone, welcome back to this MS-700 training, to this Microsoft Certification Week. I'd like to welcome you all. Thank you so much for being here. Today we're going to talk about the Module 4, about deployment and management of teams, okay? So let's go ahead and get started. Thank you so much for being here. Okay guys, so let's go ahead and get started with this. Today we have a lot of content to cover. It's not a lot of content, but there are certain things that we're going to be practicing here. We're going to be showing you here. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started with this. Let me bring here my slideshow. Just give me a minute. Okay, so today we're going to talk about the Module 4, Deploy and Manage Teams. This is our module agenda. We're going to talk about how to create and manage teams, manage the membership of those teams, and manage the access for external users. We're going to create and manage teams. This is our first lesson. On our first lesson, we're going to talk about how to create a new team. Where do we go to create a new team? What are the options that we have to create a new team? We are going to talk also about how to create teams from existing resources, configure restrictions on team creation, create an org-wide team, manage teams, how to manage private and public channels, the privacy levels of a team, and how can we do the rest of the management like archiving, restore them from archive, delete, and then restore deleted teams. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started, guys. Now, creating a team. Remember, whenever you create a team, a Microsoft 365 team, a group is automatically created, also a Sharepoint and a OneNote notebook, and so on. So in order to create a team, we can do it from different places. One of them would be the Teams Admin Center. The other one would be the Teams client. Of course, PowerShell, always present. Then if you're connected to the Microsoft Graph API, you can do it also through there. Now there's another option, which is the Microsoft 365 Admin Center. From there, remember, when you're creating a group, you can decide whether there's a team going to be created for that group, or if you click on a group, you could go to the Microsoft Teams and then there create a team, okay? But let's take a look at this. Let me bring here my tenant, my environment, so that I can show you. Let me access to the admin center, Microsoft 365 admin center. Type in my credentials. And of course, the multi-factor. Multi-factor authentication. Okay, so here we are at the Microsoft 365 Admin Center. You can see it. From here, like I mentioned, if I go to Teams and Groups, Active Teams and Groups, I can just click on any of the groups that does not have a team. Let me just make sure this one does not have a team. Yeah. A group that does not have a team. From here, I can go to Microsoft Teams tab, and here I can create a team. Okay. Now, the other options that we were looking into was directly from the Teams Admin Center or from the Teams application, the Teams client. Okay, now here on the Teams Admin Center, I can click on Teams, Manage Teams, and oh, seems like I'm sorry, my environment is giving me some issues, but there we go. Okay. So under manage teams, I can click where it says add, and then I can create a new team here. Okay, I would type the name, who's the owner, the members, the privacy, or I can go to the Teams client. From the Teams client, I can only click here where it says join or create a team. I can click on create a team. And here I can go ahead and select from scratch, from a group or team, or from selected template. Okay, so those are the options that I have to create a new team. Now, I can also create from an existing source. One of those existing sources could be a distribution list. First, I would need to upgrade the distribution list to a Microsoft 365 group. After I upgraded that to a Microsoft 365 group, well, then I can go ahead and create a team. Or I can create it if I already have the Microsoft 365 group, but it doesn't have a team on it, then I can create it from there. Now, there's also other ways that a Microsoft 365 group gets created. When I create a planner group or when I create a Sharepoint team site, of course, a Microsoft 365 group gets created, and therefore I can create a team from there. Okay, how can I upgrade an Office 365 group to a Microsoft Teams? I can do that through the 365 Admin Center. We already saw about that one, from the Teams client, and of course through PowerShell. Here on the Teams client, like I mentioned, I can go ahead and select here from a Microsoft 365 group, and I can select one of the groups that does not have a team created yet. Okay. Okay, choose 1 minute. Okay, so let's continue here. I can also create an org-wide team. Now, regarding the org-wide teams, it's really important that we take into consideration that Hello, guys. I'm so sorry for that, guys. Some technical difficulties here, but we're good to go. Okay, I hope you guys can see my screen now. They told me that for a minute you lost me. So let's go ahead and continue here. Now, regarding the content, guys, remember there are some moderators here that we have. They're a team of specialized people specialized on the subject, so that we can, if you have any questions, you can go ahead and ask them, even from past modules. That doesn't make a difference. Okay, so let's go ahead and continue, guys. Like I was telling you, we have five within each environment. We have only five all-white teams. So, and each of those all-white teams can have a maximum of 10,000 users. So if you have more than that, you can create different all-white teams for the different users that you have. You need to be in control of this. If you're the IT administrator, you need to go ahead and create those all-white teams so that no one else can do it. That way you can have the control of those worldwide teams and use them for reasons that involve the entire company. Like it could be, I don't know, internal communications, maybe the CEO would like to have one. So make sure that you have control over those, okay? And the way to create them would be through the Teams client. Here on Teams client, I'm going to click right now on from scratch, on create a team. I'm going to click from scratch. And here I can go ahead and select the option or white. So right now, normally the or white teams will have the name of the company, but of course you can add something else here. Okay, and then immediately when you create an RY team, if the amount of users that you have within your company is not more than 10,000, automatically all of the users will be added here. There we go. So we have an RY team. Okay, now we can also create and manage templates. What are the templates? Templates will allow us to generalize the type of teams that the group of people can create or a user can create. Now, how can we do that? Okay, the templates, Microsoft has created a series of templates that we can use within the company without having to do nothing for those templates. Those templates are there available, so we can select one of them. Those are called the base templates. Okay, on those templates, there are certain things determined that we are going to be having to interact with those templates, like the team name. We can modify the team name, the description. There are certain settings that will be also already marked or that we can interact with them, like the team visibility, out of favorite channels, installed applications, and pin tabs. We can also create our own custom templates. On those custom templates, we can create from a brand new template, meaning a blank canvas where we're going to select everything, or we can use an existing theme as a template, or we can also start with an existing template and just modify it to fit our needs. So let's take a look at those templates. I'm going to go to the Teams Admin Center. Here, I'm going to go to Team Templates. On Team Templates, here I have the list of templates, the base templates that Microsoft has made available for me. In this case, we can see here hospital, we can see here one for incident response, crisis communications, quality and safety, retail manager, organize the help desk, and so on. If I click on any of them, I can see what channels. These are the channels that are going to be created automatically when I use this template. There's going to be a general channel, an announcement channel, a fact channel. Now, here also will be tabs added to each of those channels. In the general channel, we have a tab with the help desk task application pinned to that tab. Also the issue reporter. On the announcement channel, we have bulletins, and on the fact we have the Q&A. If I go to another template, The channels and the tabs will be different. Let me go to templates again, and now let's go for crisis communications. If you see under crisis communications, we have a series of different channels. We have announcements, we have world news, we have internal communications, external communications, and of course, each of those channels have different tabs with different applications also pinned to them. Okay, so here is my templates. Now, what we can also do is create our own templates. I'm gonna add a new template. We can start from a blank. We can use an existing theme as a template, or we can use an existing template and just modify it to fit our needs. I'm going to start from blank. I'm going to click create. Okay. Here, I'm going to name this template. Okay. And I'm going to type a description. Where is this template going to be used in the United States? I'm going to go click next. What channels do I want to have? There's always a general channel, of course, on each team. So that one, I will not be able to remove it. Okay. I'm going to click add and I'm going to add new channels. Let's say that within this team, I have two projects. Project one, I want this channel to be showing by default, and I can add different applications for this channel. I can add, for instance, project. I can add a calendar. And I'm going to click apply. I can create another channel. This other channel is going to name project 2, show by default. And here I'm going to add Adobe Acrobat. And I'm going to apply. There we go. So I have two channels, and each channel is got different applications pinned to the tabs on each of the channels. I'm going to go ahead and submit. Now this template is named day 3-3. So I'm going to go ahead and to my teams now. I'm going to click on join or create a team. And from here, I'm going to be able to select that template. Of course, it's not available yet. It might take a couple minutes for it to show here. So we're going to have to wait a little bit so that we can select that team as a template. Okay. Okay. So let's go ahead and give it time so that it can show. Okay. In the meantime, I'm going to remove this two templates. There we go. And there we go. Let me just make sure. Yeah, here it is. Oh, this is the one that I just created it. So I'm just going to go ahead and click on that one. Here are the channels that are going to be created with this template and what applications are there. Next, what privacy do I want for this team to be private or public? I'm going to go for public. Actually, I'm going to make it private. I'm going to go for private. This team is going to be named I could also rename the channels. I could also rename the channels if I like to. I'm going to go ahead and click create. I'm not going to rename anything here. Oh, it's telling me it's have some issues. Like I said, my environment sometimes it's got some issues. We're going to have to give it time. Seems like it's still working on the templates available. So yeah, let's give it a little bit of time so that it can update and then we can create that from the template. Okay, great. So let's go ahead and continue here. Manage teams. We also have the option to manage teams. When we talk about management of the teams, we're talking about the life cycle of the team, right? So within that life cycle comes the overview of those teams, the creation of those teams, and of course the modifying of the teams. First, we already saw the part for the creation. Now, when we take a look at the overview grid, there we can look at all the information for those teams that we've already created. If you can see here on the screen, we're going to be able to look at the channels, team members, owners, guest users, and the privacy of each of our teams. There are more columns that we can see. They're not showing here. We're going to see them later. We need to be able to have certain operations there regarding the teams, like make sure that we have the correct teams, that they're being used, that they're not empty. Maybe we have 0 members, maybe we only have 1 owner, and if there's only 1 person on a team, well, there's not use for that team. The teams are used for collaboration, right? So we need to make sure that's when we talk about operation, make sure that those teams fit the operation of the company. Team profile, we can look at the team profile. If we click on the name, it's going to show us the description of the team, what type of restrictions the users have, and we can make the changes to those teams. We're going to see it right now in the Teams Admin Center. Of course, we can do this also using the PowerShell, the team module on the PowerShell. Let's take a look at that. I'm going to go here to the Teams Admin Center. On the Teams Admin Center, I'm going to click where it says Manage Teams. Under Manage Teams, I have here the Teams Overview Grid. Here I can see all the information regarding my teams. I can see this channel, the standard channels that they have, if they have private channels, team members, the owners, how many owners. This team here is got 6 owners. Okay. If I have any guest users invited to these teams, what's the privacy of each of these teams, the status, a description, if there's any sensitivity label applied, what is the group Microsoft 365 group ID of the Microsoft 365 group related to this team. And of course, if there is an expiration date, if we create an expiration policy, well, here it will show us as well. Now, I can click, like I mentioned, on any of these teams. I'm going to click on this one. And when I click here, I can see the channels, the members, and the settings. Under settings, I'm going to be able to see if the people within this team is going to be able to edit send messages, delete send messages, add and edit channels, if they're going to be able to use the mentions, if there are guest permissions, like add and edit a channel for a guest user, can the guest users delete channels? And there's also some settings for the fun stuff, like the gimpies, the stickers, the memes. Okay, so if I go here back to members and channels, here I can also edit if I want to add another member, if I want to remove a channel. I can modify whatever I like to from this team. Even the settings. Okay, if I go, let's go to this one. And I want to modify those settings that we were looking into. I can simply click here on edit. I click on edit, and then it's going to show me here where I can modify those settings. Let's just give it a minute here. Okay, so here we are. We have this, the name of the team, description, the privacy, and here is where I have those options that we were looking into the settings. Members permissions, mention, if I'm going to allow the mention, the guest permissions, and the fund settings, okay, regarding the memes and the gimpies and so on. So I'm going to cancel right now. I really don't want to modify any of this. And let's go back to the content. Okay. So here we're going to talk about manage public and private channels. We already saw that within a team, we can go ahead and create our channels. Okay. We need to determine also if we're going to have private channels. Private channels are not visible to the rest of the users within the team. So that's why it's important that we learn to manage those channels, learn to create them, and learn that they're not visible for the rest of the team. They're not visible, and the only way to join in one of those channels would be if the owner or one of the members adds someone to that private channel. I'm going to go here to my Teams client. Let me open my environment. Okay, here. Here under the teams, manage teams under the Teams Admin Center, I'm going to select a team. Let's go for this one here. Yep, let's go for this one. Under channels, I'm going to create a new channel. Add channel. Name of this channel would be okay. Here is where I'm going to select the privacy. I have standard and I have private. Standard is public, private is private. So standard will be visible to everyone. Everyone with the team will be able to participate on that channel. But private, only the owners and the members are going to be able to see it and to participate on those type of channels. Okay, not everyone will be able to participate here. I'm gonna go ahead and do here a typing number, a name for an owner of this channel. In this case, I think we have someone named Will, something of a Will. Here, Nestor Wilkie. I'm gonna click on it. He's gonna be the owner. So I'm gonna apply this. And I'm creating that channel. So here it is. I created this channel here. It's a private channel. The owner of this channel is Nestor Wilkie. I'm the administrator. I'm the team's administrator. I'm the global administrator, but I'm not a member. I'm not a member of this team. If you see here, I only have Nestor Wilkie, who is the owner. So I'm not a member of this team. It's a private team. If I go to my teams, I'm going to search for that team. Here it is. It's 3-2-3. So it's this one here. Here, if you see, I can only see project 1 and project 2 channels. I cannot see the new channel because I'm not a member. If I go ahead and add myself as a member, now I will be able to see this channel. Just give it a minute. Let's refresh. And here we are. Here I have the channel that I was talking about. Testing 4. It's a private channel, and now I can see it because I'm added as a member. If I'm the owner of a team, like in this case, let's say the Contoso Communications, here I can add a channel, okay? And also I can select the privacy, standard or private, okay? Okay, so I was telling you here on the Teams client, I can also add a channel to a team if I'm the owner of the team, okay? If I'm the owner of the team, then I can get over here, I can add a channel, and I can select also the privacy setting for this channel, whether it's going to be private or if it's going to be standard. Okay. Great. So let's go back here. Bear with me. Let me open. Okay, now within this channel, like we saw that we can also we can modify and add the members. I could also open it to Teams from here. Okay. I can add more columns to the information that I want to see. If I click here, I can remove certain columns that I want the grid, the overview grid to be showing. I could remove a channel. I could, if I like to, I could go ahead and select that channel and I could remove it, or I could edit the channel as well. When I click on edit for that channel, then I can also modify what type of privacy does this channel have. So it's taking a little bit here to load. Okay, so let's go back. So we have public and we have private channels. We saw that public, it shows a standard that is still public, right? We have we can manage those channels within the Teams Admin Center. Of course, we can use PowerShell. And there are certain private channel permissions, like we saw, if we are the members, if we are the owner of a private channel, we can modify certain things within that channel. We can modify things like who can post messages on those channels. Let's take a look here. Let me go back to one of those channels. I'm going to go back here to my environment. I'm going to go to here. And here, I'm not the owner of this channel, so I'm going to go for the project one. Probably I'm the owner here. So I'm going to go to manage channel. And here under manage channel, I can determine whether everyone is going to be able to post messages, or if only the moderator, if I'm going to have a moderator, then the moderator can go ahead and also determine certain things, like if the members will be allowed to reply to the channel messages, allow members to pin channel messages, allow bots to submit channel messages, allow connectors to submit channel messages. And I can manage here who the moderator for this channel is going to be. Okay. So, but I need to be the owner of the channel in order to go ahead and do those modifications. Now, there's certain considerations around private channels. Remember that when you create a private channel, not everyone within the team will have access to that private channel, just the people that you added as members. So you need to be really aware of this and let the owners know, so that they know that, well, if they need to publish something that is for the entire team, well, do it on the general channel and not just do it on the private channel. Regarding the channels, I can go ahead and delete channels and restore them. I'm the owner of this team, right? So since I'm the owner, I'm going to go ahead and delete this channel here, which is named Project 1. I'm going to click delete this channel. Delete that channel. There we go. So the channel is gone. But me as an owner, I can still restore that channel. I'm going to click on Manage Teams under Channels. I'm going to go to Channels. Here I'm showing all the active channels, but I also can see deleted channels. Now there's going to be a period of time. I have only 30 days, so I can restore a deleted channel. After that, it's going to be removed permanently. Okay, so I can click here on restore, and that will restore the channel here. There we go. We also have different privacy levels for a team. We have private, we have public, and of course we have org-wide. Regarding the org-wide, we already talked about it, is that you can only have 5 org-wide teams within your company. Regarding the private, it's the same as with the channels. If you create a team that is private, no one within the company will be able to see it except the members. And if you create a team that is public, then everyone within the company will be able to see it and submit a request to join that team. Now, we can change the privacy level of a team once it's created. And there's a function that it's on preview right now. Certain companies already have it. If you're subscribed to the Insiders program, you will be able to see this preview. On this functionality, it's that once you create a private channel, you could also modify whether that channel is going to be discoverable or not. Meaning, if the users will be able to search for that channel, for that team, I'm sorry, or not within the teams. Okay? So like I mentioned, normally without that function, which is not generally available yet, you would have a private channel that is not discoverable. That's what is going to happen. But if you already have this option, you could select whether you want it to be discoverable or not. Now, on Teams, well, it's the same basic issue, the same basic concept when creating a team. I can create a team, and then from here I can select whether it's private, public, or white. If I go to the Teams Admin Center, here I can also create a new team and also select whether this is going to be private, public. I cannot select or white here, but I can go for private and public. Now, there's another option that I did not mention regarding the channels. Regarding the channels, you can restrict who's going to be able to create private channels within the company with the Teams policies. If I go to Teams policies and I click on any of them, here I'm going to configure who is going to be creating private channels within a team. If I disable this and I apply it to a user, that user will not be able to create private channels. Okay? So just for you guys to be aware of that. Okay, now the teams, we can also archive, restore, and delete a team. Okay, the archiving of a team, we can do it through the admin center, Teams admin center. It's a great function, to be honest. Sometimes you within the company you have these projects that are there for a specific reason. They could last a month, 6 months, maybe 3 years. Okay, but those projects at the end of the project, they're gonna stop using the team that was created for that project. It's a certain point that project is gonna come to an end. So those projects, those teams will be, the users will stop using those teams. Once that team is not being used, that doesn't mean that the information there is not still important, right? So we can archive those teams so that in case the users need to access the information again, like the files that were stored there or the chat communications, the messages, if they still need to access those, you can just go ahead and restore an archive team, and then the users will have access again to all of that information. Okay. Now, when archiving, you have two options. Either you archive everything, or you can archive the team but leave the Sharepoint for read only. Okay, meaning read only users will be able to look at the files that were uploaded there, but they will not be able to modify them. They will not be able to create new files there. They will only be able to read them. And this archiving, once you archive a team, the team is going to disappear from team client. The members are not longer going to be able to look at that team once you archive it. Okay, and there's no period of time for you to archive a team. I mean, you can have an archive team for years, or you can have it for a day, minutes even. You can also archive a team in Teams client, and you can restore an archive team. Now, the restoration is only done through the Teams admin center, not the client. You could also delete a team. If you know that that team is no longer going to be used, you can go ahead and delete a team. There's a 30-day period of time for you to restore a team before it gets permanently deleted. So once you delete a team, you still have 30 days to restore that deleted team. And after that, it's going to be permanently deleted. So let's go ahead and take a look at the archiving, and here I'm going to go to manage teams. I'm going to select one of these teams. I have this one that I just created it. Yeah, no, I wasn't this one, but anyway, I'm going to archive this one. If you see here, it's got a status. This one is active. I'm going to go ahead and archive that team. 3-2-3. So if I go here, that team is gone. Three dash 2-3. It's not that it's gone, it's just that it's been archived. If you see here, it shows me here that it's been archived. Why does it show me? Because I'm the owner. I'm the owner of the team, that's why it shows me here. But the rest of the members will not notice this. Okay, so this team has been archived. Here it is, the archive team. Now it shows this archive. I can go ahead and unarchive this team. I can select it and click where it says unarchive so that I can restore that team. Here on the Teams client, I can delete the team permanently if I like to. But if you see here, I don't have an option that says unarchive. Okay. There we go. So I can unarchive here on the Teams Admin Center. I'm going to click where it says unarchive, and there we go. That team is active again. It's going to move from here to here. Just need to give it time. There you go. Here I have my team is no longer showing that it is archived. Okay, and of course I always have the option to delete a team, or I could also delete it from here and restore it from here as well. Okay, so just 1 minute here, guys. Okay, so let's continue. Now, there are certain things that are called the policy packages. When you're managing teams, you are going to be creating different type of policies in order to control the user and experience within teams. One of those policies would be the team's policy, the one that is going to control whether the users can create or not private channels. Another one could be the messaging policy, where you can control the experience within the messages, like if the users are going to be able to delete messages, if they're going to be able to send gimpys, if they're going to be able to use memes, if they're going to be able to use stickers. You could also create a meeting policy, a calling policy, there are different types of policies that you're going to be creating in order to manage the interaction of your users within Teams. So instead of going and create a policy and then having to assign it to a user, you could create a policy package. And the policy package, you're going to compile those policies, and then you can apply it to one user, or you could apply it to multiple users. You could apply it to groups, to Microsoft 365 groups. Okay, so the policy packages are going to save you time. Why? You already have different type of employees within their company. You already have different type of users and users. One of them would be, I don't know, frontline workers. Then you have supervisors, and then you have managers, and then you have the CEO, and so on. So, and you even have users divided by department. Like you have people working on the marketing, you have people working on the sales department, others on the research department, on the IT department. So you already have those type of users. They're all different. So you could create a package for the frontline users, another different policy package for the supervisors, and another one for the managers. So that with those packages, you can provide different levels of rights within the teams. Like maybe only allow the managers to be able to create private channels. All of the rest will not be able to create private channels. Maybe only allow the supervisors to be able to make phone calls through Teams, not the frontline workers, or so on. So you can manage what policies will be applied to what type of users depending on the level of access that they should have as well. And you can customize your policy packages. Microsoft is going to give you a baseline of different policy packages that you could use based on the type of user, but you can also create your own custom policy packages. These are some of the baseline policy packages that Microsoft has already deployed for us, and we can just go ahead and use it. If you see here on this table, you can see that each policy package is going to have different set of policies. Some of them will include all of the type of policies that we have: messaging policy, meeting policy, application setup policy, calling policy, and live events. Some of them will include them all, but some of them will just include a few of them. Like here, the healthcare information worker, it only includes a messaging policy and a meeting policy. Now, when talking about policies, remember guys, if you're not applying a direct policy to a user, that user is going to stick with the default or the global policy. Let's take a look here on the Teams policies. I have a global policy that this one is the default policy for everyone. And I have another policy, which is this one that I created. And this one, it's applied to whoever I said that I want it to be applied. But if I haven't applied a different policy than the global, then the global is going to be the default for every user. So if I create my policy package and I only include two policies, like here, messaging policy, meeting policy, it means that the app setup policy is going to be the global for the users that I apply this policy package. Okay, so let's take a look at those policy packages. Okay, I'm gonna go here to let me see where I have them. Messaging policies, location, policy packages. Here we are. So here under policy packages, here I have the base policy packages that Microsoft has already deployed for us. I have education for a higher education student. I have education for a primary school student. I have this other education for a primary school teacher. I have frontline manager, frontline worker, healthcare clinical worker, healthcare information worker. And I can create my own custom packages. If I create my custom packages, here I'm going to be selecting what type of policy is the one that I'm adding. Okay, let's go for Teams policy. And then here I'm going to select the policy that I want on this package. If the policies that I have here are not sufficient, I can create other policy by clicking on add. And that's going to take me to the screen where I can create the policy. Let's go and select this one. Let's go ahead and add a messaging policy. Here under messaging, oh, no, let's go for meetings. I'm sorry, meeting policy. Under meetings policy, if you see, I have more options of policies. But the same, if these policies do not meet my needs, then I can go ahead and just create a new one. Okay, so that's for the policy packages. Let's talk about our second lesson. On this second lesson, we're going to talk about managing the membership of the teams. Now, before we actually do so, we're going to take a small break. We're going to take a 10-minute break, and then we'll be right back. Let me just put in the timer here. Just 1 minute. And here we go, guys. So here's the timer. There's a QR code scan if you like to scan it and have the timer on your cell phone. And I'll see you within 10 minutes. Thank you, guys. Okay, guys. So we're back. Let's go ahead and continue here with our content. We're going to talk now about managing the membership. Now, within the groups, within the teams, you're going to have different types of membership. We're going to talk about how to manage the users in a team, how to configure the dynamic membership for teams, and of course, how to manage the user access within the Azure Active Directory with a tool called the Access Reviews. So let's take a look at this. Okay, so let's take a look at this and let's talk about how to manage the users in a team. How to manage the users in a team. It is really important that we are able to manage the users within a team so that we can determine who's going to be a part of the team and who is not. Remember, you have private and you have public teams. If you have public teams, then every user is going to be able to decide whether they request the access to a team or not, and then the owner should be the one able to approve or decline. But with a private team, the users are not going to be able to see that team, even if they look for it. So there's no way they can actually submit a request. So managing the users in the team is really important. Also, we have two roles within a team. We have the owner and we also have the member. The owner, of course, is going to have some management features. The member can only participate on that team. So we need to manage the membership. How can we do that? We can do that through the Teams Admin Center. If we're the owners of the team, we can manage that through the Teams client and, of course, always present PowerShell. So let's take a look here. I'm going to go now to the, where would be here? Okay, I'm going to go now to my environment. Here I am on my environment. I'm going to go to Manage Teams. Under Teams, I'm going to click on any of the teams that I like to. And here I can manage the members. I can manage the role of each of those members, whether they're owner or they're members. If I go to the Teams client, here on the Teams client, I can also click on any team. I can manage that team. And here on their members, I can manage the members. I can see who's going to be a member, who's the owner. I can manage also the roles of each of them. There's another way that I can manage the members. I can go to the 365 Admin Center. On the active teams and groups, I can click on a team, on a group. From here, I can manage the members. Also through the Azure Active Directory. Okay, but the most common would be here through the Teams client or through the Teams Admin Center. There's another option which is called the dynamic membership. The dynamic membership is going to be working based on an attribute. The dynamic membership basically will have the system automatically adding or removing members from a team. How will that work? The system is going to base his decision whether to add or remove a member based on an attribute of that member, of that person, of that user. Okay, this can be done only through the Azure Active Directory. Of course, I can also do it through the PowerShell. Now, on the Azure Active Directory portal, I can only select the dynamic membership when creation of the team, when creation of the group. So let's take a look at that. I'm going to go here to my environment. I'm going to open the Azure Active Directory. On the Azure Active Directory, I'm going to go to Groups. And I'm going to create a new group. This is going to be a Microsoft 365 group. Of course, it's the type of group that is going to allow me to create a team. So this one is going to be name. The email address, group description. I don't want to assign roles to this group, so I'm going to leave it as no. And here's where I'm going to select the membership type. I'm going to go for dynamic user. Okay, who's going to be the owner? I can go ahead and select the owner right now, or I can leave it with no owner selected. I'm going to go for, I'm going to select Damiano. I'm going to select Damiano as the owner. Now, I'm going to go ahead and here under dynamic user membership, I'm going to create a dynamic query so that the system knows what to look for, what property to look for in order to add the members. Under properties, I can select object ID, display name, city, company name, country, department, so on. Right now, I'm going to go for the department. I'm going to go for department. Under department, I'm going to select this one is got to be equals to, and I'm going to add the value that I want it to be equals to. I'm going to say this one is going to be for HR. Okay, so the department is going to be HR. I'm going to add the expression so that the rule syntax can show here. I'm going to delete this value, and now I'm going to save it. I'm going to create the team, the group. Let's give it a minute. There we go. So the group was created. It should be here somewhere. Let's see. Oh, still not there. Let's refresh. Here it is. Here's the group that I created with the dynamic membership. Now, this group, here it is. It tells me the membership type. It's got one owner, but right now doesn't have any members. So I'm going to go back. Groups. From groups, here, actually, I'm going to go back to users. I have all users, and now I'm going to go for someone that I want to be the member of that. I'm going to go for Isaiah. I'm going to click on Isaiah. I'm going to edit. I'm going to go to the department. Right now, he works at the sales department, but he's moving. He's switching departments. He's going to the HR department. I'm going to save it. There we go. And I'm going to close this. Now, Isaiah, since now he's working at the HR department, he will be automatically added to the group that I just created because of the attribute of the department. Okay, now that group that I created, I can go to the Teams, to the Microsoft 365 Admin Center, search for that group. Still not showing. Here it is. You can click on it, and I can create a team from that group. And the same way, the person who's got the attribute of department equals to HR is going to be added automatically to that team. The same would happen with the removal. Okay, if I have two groups with dynamic membership and I switch departments, the system automatically will remove me from the group that says that I need to be HR department. Right now I'm on the IT department. It's going to remove me from the IT department group, from the IT department team, and now it's going to add me automatically to the HR department or the HR team or group. Okay. So the dynamic membership is really useful. Of course, there will be other teams that I would need to be a part of, maybe for other projects that I'm not leaving, but it is really useful, the dynamic membership, especially for the main team that is being used for the department or for the specific area where the users are working. Now, I can also use the access reviews. The access reviews is another tool that is really useful. With those access reviews, I'm going to be able to set a period of time that I need to go back and review the access of certain users. Why is this useful? Let's say that I have guest users within a team, and those guest users should have access to the team only for a certain period of time. I don't know, I'm thinking here, there may be consultants, there are people from somebody that some other company that I'm working with, but we're just going to be working for a month. Or maybe those users should be there only for 3 days. Me as a team administrator, I am responsible from removing those accesses, or it could be also the team owner, because if the users remain with the access after that certain period of time, they will still have access to the resources that could be confidential to the company. So I need to make sure that they only have access during that period of time. So what I can do is I can go ahead and create those access reviews. I can only do it through the Azure Active Directory. And well, of course, I need to have a license that allows me access to the Azure Active Directory. Okay, so let's go ahead and take a look at it. Here on my tenant, I'm going to go to the Azure Active Directory. I'm going to go to groups. Here I am on all groups. I'm going to select the group that I want to be reviewing the accesses for. So I'm going to go to this group that I created, and here I'm going to have the option for access reviews. Let's give it a minute. Here under access reviews, I'm going to create a new access review, and I'm going to tell the system, you know what? I want this to review the access for this selected group that I've created. I want to review the access of guest users only, or all of the users within the group. I'm going to go right now for guest users only. Click next. Who's going to be the reviewer? I want it to be the group owner, selected users or groups. User will review their own accesses, or the managers of the users. I'm going to go for the group owner. But in case the group owner does not do the review, then who's going to be responsible for that? I'm going to type in then an administrator, in this case, myself. Or it could be the manager of another department or somebody else. I'm just, adding myself, but it could be somebody else. How long will the access of the user should last? 3 days, 4 days, a year, 2 years? I can type in here the duration, but it's got to be in days format. So I can go for 365, or I can go for 3 days only, or I can go for 1 day. Is this going to be recurrent? Like every once a year, I'm going to have to go and review whenever there's a guest user with 1 day this. I can do it weekly, monthly, quarterly, semi-annually, or annually. This case is going to be just one time. And it's going to start on December 15. I'm going to click next. What's going to happen when the user has got 1 day of access already on the team? If the reviewer does not respond, then I can go ahead and auto-apply certain activity like remove the access of the user, approve the access of the user again so that he can keep having access, or take recommendations based on previous decisions. The action to apply or deny a guest user, if I want to remove the access, I also want to remove the user membership from that resource. Do I want to block the user from signing for 30 days? What's going to happen? What I can also send a notification to somebody else. In this case, I can go ahead and select another person to notify of this whenever the access gets removed or whenever the action is taken. It could be to approve the access again. So send a notification to someone when the action is taken. Will I enable reviewer decision helper? And there's advanced settings like, will I require a justification from the reviewer to approve the access or to remove the access? Will I allow email notifications? Will I allow the user to also set reminders? Now I need to name this review access review. And create it. And there you go. I will be informed whenever there's a user, a guest user that has got more than 1 day with access to this group, so that then I can review his access and determine whether he should still have access or not. Like I mentioned, it could be, I can select any period of time that I like to. It's a good recommendation to review every year the guest users access, just to make sure that we still have, the correct people collaborating on the teams. Maybe every 6 months and maybe every year. Okay, so let's continue with our third lesson. And this third lesson, we're going to talk about managing the access of external users. Now here we're going to talk about external access and guest access. We're going to describe how to manage the external access and the guest access. We're going to talk about how to manage the external access in the Azure Active Directory, configure external access in Microsoft Teams, and manage guest access also in Microsoft Teams. So let's take a look at this. Okay, so what's the difference between external access and guest access? They're different. The guest access is to grant permissions to an individual, while the external access is to grant permissions to an entire domain. Okay, so those are the main differences. Guest access is for an individual and external access is for an entire domain. Now, that domain that we're going to be granting external access is gonna have a Azure Active Directory account, and the users, they have to have a Teams account. They need to be already using Teams so that I can then go ahead and grant the external access to that domain. They need to have an Azure Active Directory account. And like I mentioned, they need to already be using Teams for the external access. Now, when I talk about the guest access here, and let me choose another color just to highlight the differences. So guest access, when I talk about guest access, here is for an individual. That individual does not need to have an Azure Active Directory account. He does not need to have a Teams account. He can have an email from a total different platform. It could be, I don't know, I'm talking here a personal Outlook account, or it could be a Gmail account, Yahoo account, anything else. It could also be a Microsoft account, of course, but it doesn't have to. And that user, since he doesn't have an account, a Microsoft account, he's gonna piggyback on your existing licenses. So for each license that you grant on your company to another user, well, you're gonna be able to invite up to 5 guest users per license. What does that mean? Let's say that I grant a license, Teams license to Alex Wilbur. So for that license, I will be able to invite 5 guest users to collaborate within the company. Now, when I talk about guest access, I mean that I'm going to be able to invite them to be almost a part of the company. They will have an identity here. Let's go to users. Here on the users on the Azure Active Directory, I'm going to click new user, and I'm going to click where it says invite user. Here, I'm going to type in the name of that user that I'm inviting, what's the email address, the first name, the last name, personal message, groups and roles that I'm going to grant within the company. I could even grant roles. I can invite him to be a part of a group or a team. I can also type in the user's location. I can block the sign in. Of course, if I'm inviting him, I don't want to block the sign in, right? I'm going to give him a job title, department, so they will have an identity within my company. Okay, it's not the same that if I invite someone to a meeting, right? If I create a meeting, I type the email address for that user is going to be able to sign into that meeting. It's not the same. That is just a anonymous user. But these are guest users, and these guest users, I can add them as members on Teams. If you see here, I have another guest user here, and I can go ahead and add him as a member of that team, even though he doesn't have a Microsoft account. I can go ahead and invite him to be a part of a team. He's going to be able to open his Teams, enter his credentials, and then be a part of that team. Collaborate there, share files, post messages. We're going to take a look at the experience of that user within the Teams as well. So let's take a look here. So I can manage the access for the external users and the guest users. Of course, there's different features that I'm going to be able to manage. And there are 4 levels of authorization that I need to grant in order to be able to invite guest users and external users. One of those levels, the main level, would be the Azure Active Directory. If I block the access on the Azure Active Directory, then I can no matter what other authorizations I have on other platforms like the Microsoft Teams Admin Center or the Microsoft 365 Admin Center, the Azure Active Directory takes precedence. And the Azure Active Directory, all the whatever settings I modify there, whether if I allow or block the access, it's going to be applied to the entire tenant. So I'm going to go to the Azure Active Directory. Here I'm going to go to Azure Active Directory. Under the main menu, I'm going to select the external identities. Okay, I'm going to click on external identities. Here I have the option for external collaboration settings. And here I'm going to be able to manage. Let's go here. I'm going to be able to manage from the Azure Active Directory. I'm going to be able to tell the system what are going to be those guest user permissions. If the admins can invite guest users, if the members are going to be able to invite guest users, what type of sign-in options will I have for those guest users, and certain collaboration restrictions. I also will have a add deny list, certain domains that I want to be my users be able to invite from those domains, or certain domains that I like to block. So here I have the guest user access restrictions. Here I can tell the system the guest users will have the same access as members. The guest users will have limited access only to certain properties and groups that they're a member of. The guest users access is restricted to properties and membership of their own directories. And I can also have this guest invite settings where I can tell who's going to be able to invite guest users. Anyone in the organization, including the same guest users, can invite other guest users. Only members of the company, only users assigned to specific admin roles, or no one in the organization. Here is regarding the sign-in options. If I'm going to allow to be sent to any domain, if I'm going to deny invitations from specific domains, or if I'm going to allow invitations only to specific domains. Okay, so those are the configurations under the Azure Active Directory. I also have a second level within the Microsoft Teams. Here I'm going to be able to control the guest experience within the Microsoft Teams only. Now this one on the Azure Active Directory is got to do not just with the Microsoft Teams, but also with the Sharepoint, with the Jammer, with the Stream, if I'm going to be able to invite their guest users. So this configurations that we just saw here, where the guest user access is going to be for the entire tenant, not just for Teams. But if I go to Microsoft Teams Admin Center, here on the Teams Admin Center, I'm going to go to users. On the users, I have guest access and external access. On external access, I could also allow on the external access, let me go here. Okay, on the external access for Microsoft Teams, the default setting is the Open Federation for external access. The Open Federation means that all domains are allowed to collaborate with my users within Teams. Okay, remember, we already set the configuration for the entire company here on the Azure Active Directory. But for Teams, only for Teams, the default is the Open Federation. I could also allow certain domains, block certain domains, or block all domains. Okay, on the external access. Now we need to be really careful here, because if on the Azure Active Directory I block a domain, let's say here, if I block a domain here, I add a domain here that its name is going to be contoso321.com. Okay, that's a domain that I want to block. If I block that domain, then if I go to the Teams in here, I say allow all external domains, that contoso.123 is going to be blocked, no matter if I allow it here. Even if I go here to allow only specific external domains and I want to add that domain, that domain is still going to be blocked because I blocked it here, which controls the entire tenant. Okay, so I need to be really careful with that. Besides that, well, I can go ahead and allow all domains, which is the default, allow only specific domains, block only specific domains, or block all external domains. That is going to be depending on the needs of my company. I can allow the users within my organization to communicate with domains that are still using Skype for Business. I can enable that option here. Okay. Now, if I have external users, other domains that are using Teams that are not managed by an organization, they can contact my users within my organization, yes or no. And regarding the guest access, I'm going to control the experience of the guest users within my company. Like, first, I can enable or disable the guest users on Teams. Now, remember, this is only on the Teams level, okay? I can control whether I'm going to have guest users or not. If I'm going to allow them, then I can control certain features, like if they're going to be able to make private calls using Teams, if they're going to be able to share their video, use the Meet now, if they're going to be able to edit, send messages, if they're going to be able to chat or no, if they're going to be able to use GIMPs, memes, stickers, and so on. So this is under the guest access. Okay, now I was telling you about also the other type of access. Well, let's finish with this and then we'll come back. So that's it with the Azure Active Directory, the Microsoft Teams. But we also have certain controls on the Microsoft 365 groups. This one is going to control the guest experience in the Microsoft 365 groups and the Microsoft Teams as well. Let's take a look at those. I'm going to go back to the Microsoft 365 Admin Center. Here on the Microsoft 365 Admin Center, I'm going to go to the team that I like to. Let's say I have this team here named here. I'm going to click on it. And here under members, I'm also going to be able to manage the members. If I had guest users, I could manage them here as well. I can invite guest users. I can remove guest users within the team. Okay. Of course, I can access other admin centers from here. We're going to talk about them in the next slides. And the fourth level that I have is on the SharePoint Online and the OneDrive. Let me go there. Microsoft Teams, this one we already saw it. Okay. So the fourth level that I have is on the SharePoint Online and the OneDrive for Business. Why is this important for Teams? Remember, whenever you have a team, on that team, you have the general channel, and that general channel has got a SharePoint embedded on that team, which is where you post the files for the channel. This is a SharePoint that is embedded here. So depending on the restrictions that I have on that on SharePoint, the guest users are going to be able, or the external users are going to be able to view these documents, to post documents, or not. So let's take a look at that. I'm going to open here now the SharePoint Admin Center. I could open it from here. Here is SharePoint Admin Center, or I can also open it from here. So I'm going to click on the SharePoint Admin Center. And here I'm going to go under policies. I'm going to go for sharing. And here I'm going to be able to determine whether I'm going to allow the guest users to share or not share. Here, if you see here, I have anyone. Users can share files and folders using links that do not require signing. Anyone is going to be able to access files within the OneDrive and the SharePoint. I can modify this to new and existing guest members. I can modify it to existing guest members, meaning new guest members will not be able to access those files. Or I can move it to only people in my organization. Now with this, if I move the SharePoint bar, if I increase the SharePoint bar, the OneDrive will not get increased. Also, I can move the OneDrive bar freely. But if I decrease the level on the SharePoint, will automatically decrease the one on the OneDrive. Okay. There are other settings like the oh, I'm sorry for that. Give me just 1 minute here, guys. There are other settings that I can set here regarding the collaboration, so that we can, provide the correct access to the users. Bear with me for right back with you guys. Okay, guys. So that was the last option, the SharePoint Online and OneDrive for Business. Now, there was another thing that I wanted to talk to you about, which is let me bring it here on Teams Admin Center. Okay, which is the anonymous users. So under the meetings, here under meetings settings, here I have another configuration which is different than guest users and external users. This one is called anonymous users. And this one, if I'm creating a meeting, I can invite anyone, or anyone with the link can go ahead and join the meeting without being a guest user or without even being from another domain. Okay, I don't need to know who they are. I'm allowing anonymous users to join meetings. And I can also, here on the meeting settings, I can also set certain levels of experience that these users are going to have, like anonymous users can interact with applications in meetings. How is it going to look, the email invitation? Okay, so this is different from guest users and external users. Of course, if I remember, the guest users will have interaction, they can be a part of a team, also the external users. The anonymous users, they cannot, they're just going to be on a meeting, but that's it. They're not going to be a part of a team, they're not going to be accessing any files or sharing or collaborating. Okay, great, guys. So with that, we end with this fourth module. That was the end of this fourth module. Remember, you'll have the availability of open the GitHub laboratories so that you can practice everything there. You're gonna need to have an environment, which we will not provide in this case. You can get a free environment, a free trial of an environment on the Microsoft 365 website. You need a credit card in order to get that free trial. Okay, so let's go ahead and take a look at some of your questions so that we can help you here, guys. Give me just 1 minute. Okay. Um, okay, I'm looking here into the questions. Yes, someone asking here if the SharePoint and the OneDrive settings are set for the most permissive, but the Azure Active Directory is on the more restrictive. Then yes, the one that takes precedence is the one on the Azure Active Directory. Okay, those are the ones that take precedence, and so if the access for the resources are blocked on the Azure Active Directory, it doesn't matter if we allow it on the OneDrive settings, they will not have access. Someone asking me which trial do you recommend for the Microsoft 365? In this case, since it's Teams that we're practicing, it could be a business premium, or you could go for the E5 license. Any of those two are going to be okay. When you archive a team, does the space used count against your 1 terabyte of users data space? No, it doesn't. It doesn't count against that. I suppose external users will be able to send, receive emails as normal tenant users as well. What features does the external user have for email capabilities? I'm sorry, someone asking here, what feature does the external user have for email capabilities? If external users, they have their own domain. Remember, when you're allowing the external user you're just granting the domain, their domain, the capacity to communicate with your own domain. So the capacities that they will have regarding email will be based on whatever their own IT admin determines. It's not something that you're going to manage. It's something that their own domain IT administrator is going to manage, not yourself or the external users. When you archive, okay, that one I already answered. Okay. Okay, now listen. When we're looking into the subscriptions or the licenses that we want to have, it's always that. Remember, you need to have a subscription that gives you the access to the Azure Active Directory, so that you can manage all that external access and all that. If you have an E3, for instance, you won't have access to the Azure Active Directory. So when looking into the subscriptions into the trial, look at the subscriptions so that you can have access to the Azure Active Directory, to the Security and Compliance Admin Center, to the Teams Admin Center, okay? So you can manage all of these options. Okay, bear with me. Here's someone asking whether P1 or P2 is free if we add to our free Azure test account. Once you have the trial, you will also be able to activate and enable a trial P2 or P1 for your tenant. It's going to be a trial option also for 30 days. Let me see here. Someone asking, a company has some users with business voice license for PSTN phone numbers and calling. Seems to be no way. Oh, that was already answered. I'm sorry. Okay. Someone asking if tomorrow is the last day of this training. Yes. Well, today we covered the end of the training, to be honest. Today was our last day. What we have tomorrow we have another session, but that session is the exam cram. So the exam cram, basically, we're going to review all the content on that is going to be on the Microsoft, on the exam, on the certification exam. We're going to review everything. We only have 2 hours, so we cannot stop on specific on and cover all the modules like detail coverings. Okay, so we're just going to do a quick review of each of the modules. We're also going to be answering your questions, and we're going to present you with what to expect when presenting the exam, what to expect, what prerequisites you're going to have, and what type of questions you're going to be looking into. So that's basically what we're going to be doing tomorrow. It's a quick review of all the content that that is going to be on the certification exam, and we're going to let you know what to expect within the exam. But yeah, we're not going to be doing like detail of every module like we did on the sessions here. It's just a quick review of everything. Of course, if tomorrow you have specific questions, we can go ahead and help you on any of the modules. But they need to be specific, not just open questions like how to configure external and guest access. Well, that's an entire module, and it would be really difficult to show you everything, right? Someone asking here, what is the best option, PTSN or direct calling? Mark, I'm sorry, I'm not really following your question regarding that. There are two options when it comes to phone calls. You have the calling plans from Microsoft, and then the other one, which is the direct routing. But yeah, I'm not sure what do you mean about that. If you're asking which one is better between the direct routing and the calling plans, it'll depend on your company. It'll depend on your company. I mean, Microsoft, the calling plans from Microsoft, they're really good. They're based on minutes, but it'll be depend on the needs of your company. To be honest, you would have to decide that for on your own. Now, someone saying there's a lot of PowerShell questions in the exam the last time I took it. Will there be any review of that? Regarding PowerShell, guys, PowerShell is a really complex language. It's not just like I can give you 3 cmlets and then you'll be set for PowerShell, right? I can show you here 4 or 5 cmlets and yeah, you'll be good to go. No, PowerShell is really complex. So if you're interested in PowerShell, you should really get into PowerShell, and there is documentation. There's Microsoft documentation that can help you on show you different components. But yeah, PowerShell is really complex. Now on the exam, you will not have that many questions regarding PowerShell. Probably is going to ask you about the components that I show you here, the ones for activating the sensitivity labels, so that you can go ahead and do that for apply the sensitivity labels on the teams, on the groups. But there's going to be like basic questions. They're not going to get too much into PowerShell because, like I mentioned, it's really complex. There's lots of cmlets that you could be using, lots of modules that you would need. Like if you wanna enable, for instance, the information varies to PowerShell, you need not only the Azure Active Directory module, you also need the module for the compliance, security and compliance admin centers. You also need the modules for the Exchange. So it's a little bit complex. It's not just one cmlet that I could show you and that you'll be set. No. There's also other lots of documentations regarding PowerShell connects on the Microsoft. You can find more information regarding there. Someone asking here, disabling anonymous users to meetings, will that prevent also our users dialing in from joining? No. No, that will not prevent them from joining, because remember, they will have a PIN number, they will have other ways to authenticate and to access those calls. So they're not anonymous when the ones dialing in. Okay, guys. Well, let me see here. Let me see if we still have time for another question. What is the best option, PSTN or direct calling? Oh, we already answered that one, so I'm gonna move it from here. What license from Microsoft provides for SMS capability for a PSTN number? There's no SMS capability on Microsoft, unfortunately, yet. So yeah, it's still not available, that option. In-depth PSTN. What do you mean by in-depth PSTN, Mark? I'm sorry, I'm not familiar with that term. In-depth PSTN. Okay. Okay, guys. We've reached the end of our session. I'd like to thank you all for being here today. Thank you so much for being here. Let me actually bring over my camera. So thank you so much for being here, guys. Thank you so much for paying attention. We try to answer all of your questions. Remember, tomorrow we still have a session. Tomorrow we have the exam cram. There we'll be answering also all of your questions. We're going to do a quick review of the whole content so that you guys are better ready for your certification exam. We're also going to talk about what to expect when presenting the certification exam. Okay, so thank you so much for being here, guys. I will be seeing you tomorrow, same time. Take care. Bye-bye.